The next section of our event today, I'd like to introduce our 4 expert cloud panelists who have broken through their own corporate immune systems to be disruptive. And we'll give you just a taste of where they are in their cloud journey. So, in alphabetical order, in case you thought we were playing favorites here, Capital One. Capital One plans to maintain as their hybrid environment AWS as a predominant survivor. They have moved core bank and card processing systems, mobile and web applications, and a large number of their back-end office applications to the cloud. From Capital One, we have their lead cloud platform engineer, Kyle Busikist. CocaCola is planning to be out of their data centers by this summer. They've already successfully migrated 30 to 40% of their apps to the cloud. From the Coca-Cola company, we have their Director of Applications, Security Operations and Engineering, Puneet Veer. PwC has a variety of business units with very different cloud needs. Their primary cloud is Microsoft Azure, but they also use Google Cloud and AWS. From PwC, we have their global head of security architecture, engineering and innovation, Pablo Salazar. And last, but certainly not least, Schlumberger plans to maintain a hybrid environment across public and private clouds, PaaS and SaaS. From Schlumberger, we have CISO Emeritus and current Schlumberger Fellow, Mario Chock. Well, gentlemen, it's fantastic to have us all together here today, and I thought that Salim's take on this was very interesting. Now, what we have here is 4 very different global enterprises, all within different stages of their journey to the cloud. And already, we will see that what they do and how they do it isn't the same, and there isn't just one correct way to get into the cloud. Now, Salim talked about this immune system, the immunity to change. And Pablo, maybe you want to take that on first. Last night when we spoke, you said PwC exhibited some immunity of its own. Tell me a bit more about that.
I was actually very surprised at the level of resistance throughout the organization. I wasn't surprised so much on the legal and compliance side because I knew that they needed to be educated about the cloud. It was something very new. But even the developers, there were things that I thought were no-brainers like PaaS services. But when you have a number of developers who've been doing the same thing, the same way for a number of years, they had to be educated as well.
Now, what means did you use to break through that resistance? Because there was the resistance, but then what?
I think there were a couple of factors. I think one is trying to front-run a lot of the resistance by educating the developers and others as to what the cloud is, how it differs from the data center. And then I think also it was just really the group seeing the cloud work. And after we'd moved a number of workloads in the cloud, they saw it wasn't a catastrophe. We could do business in the cloud. And that really lessened the resistance quite a bit.
Right. So what you're saying is you just go do it and enable folks to go there and they'll see themselves what the advantages are.
That's exactly right.
Very true. Now, Kyle, your team also took a very interesting approach to dealing with the resistance and get early buy-in. So what did you do?
We did. So we adopted a cloud-first mindset, and we opened up development very early in our journey, and we pushed all of our development to the cloud. And what that gave us was the ability for the application developers to get hands-on experience, which we found was critical. And they could play with the different services available from the cloud providers. And they actually built more cloud-native apps when they had their hands on the services.
Yeah. Now, Salim made an interesting observation that a Tesla is an app on wheels. You made a similar observation about Capital One last night.
Yeah, so we took one of our more high-profile apps, so our mobile app, and we said if we put this in the cloud and we do it right, then the rest of the development teams in our organization should be able to follow suit, right. And they did.
But you also said that you don't think of yourself as a bank anymore.
Oh no, we're more of a technology company running a bank, and that's how we're innovating and staying on the cutting edge.
Exactly, yeah. Now, when you took this approach to change, how did it work out? Because I must imagine that you had to learn and that not everything went fine the first way. So what was one of those factors that helped you achieve the change?
For us, it was getting people to treat the cloud as disposable compute resources and not do a lift and shift and move all the things that we've done, good or bad, in the data center for the last 15, 20 years into the cloud. And once you get past that hurdle and getting people on board and not, like Pablo said, not doing what they've always done, we were able to get them to think and use cloud services in the way that they were designed to use.
Now, Puneet, when I read the intro, that's a very bold statement about moving out of your traditional data centers and into the cloud. Did you see resistance to that idea? And because those are some very tight deadlines. But this summer, you want to be out of your data center. So what did you do?
No, absolutely. It was a multi-pronged approach, and it was disruptive. And it was not just the technology part. That was the easy part. It was more about the people and process. We actually revisited all our policies and said, okay, how do we make it easy for the cloud? And it's not cloud first, but cloud only kind of a thing. Have the right set of people working together and make sure that they're enabled, right? And we had to do a top-up and bottom-up kind of an approach and work with all the management, change the policies, change the way we did. And then one of the first app that I wanted to take to the cloud was, believe it or not, was Active Directory domain controllers, which people were always scared. I said, if we can take this securely and prove that these are secure in the cloud, then I don't think anything else can be said that they cannot be moved. So we took Active Directory domain controllers, worked with the different cloud providers, had the new set of cloud security requirements and standards. And we, in fact, overrode some of the policies that were in the organization for the last 20 years and changed that mindset. And that helped us. Once I was able to prove that, we have these domain controllers working securely in the cloud, I think after that, there was no looking back.
So what I hear you recommend is don't take an obvious application like a customer-facing web app, but take something really hard and secure, put that in the cloud first, and that will then guide the organization to change.
Yeah, we put the standard for the most critical apps out there, then everything else out after that is going to be easy for you to and get the teams lined up. Yeah. Setting up the right teams to work together was a critical aspect out here. That's, I think, one of the biggest challenges I would say is that, and it has to be disruptive. Yeah. If you think this is going to be a simple, easy journey, I think then you're on the wrong journey. Right. You have to make it disruptive. Otherwise, you're not making changes.
Pablo, I hear a lot of stories from folks like you in global enterprises that it's still kind of siloed. Right? There's the haves and the haves not, the goes and the don't goes. How do you break through that?
I think that I came to a realization at some point in the process that even though technologically we were moving into the cloud, we were moving a lot of the data center mentality, governance, organization into the cloud as well. And when you have developers that want to kick off a build from a Slack channel, and they want that deployed on immutable infrastructure with all of the security embedded in near real time, those siloed organizations, those mentalities, they don't work. And so that's a process we had to go through, and it's a process we're still going through.
Yeah, it's very important, isn't it, Puneet? I'm sure that you guys went through a similar move when you make those bold statements.
Oh no, absolutely. The line starts getting blurry between what the network, security versus what infrastructure securities are. Now with the developer, with the just a click of a button can enable any machine workload to be talking to the internet. Before that used to be a six-week change control, getting the network team and getting the infrastructure team to make those changes. Yeah. So you're empowering team at the same time. You have to go with a different mindset in that, and the silos have to be broken down. You got to make sure the developers understand what are the implications and the risk. And you have to take a risk-based approach on these things.
Now, Mario, Schlumberger is a very old company, right? I'm sure very resistant to change, and yet you guys did an amazing strategy around cloud. So tell us a bit how you drove, because you personally were very involved in that change at Schlumberger.
So the first thing is Schlumberger was involved on a major digital transformation program. And moving to the cloud was one of those things, part of the digital transformation program. We had a lot of resistance, especially a lot of people did not want to move to the cloud, and they use security as an excuse. And I was able to actually convince them that we could actually be much more secure in the cloud if we do it right. And the main thing that I think was very successful was education, educating the stakeholders on what the cloud is, what the cloud can do for you, and the advantage of the clouds. So,
yeah. Kyle, was that the same for you guys? Because you've been around for a while, but was it hard then to convince those folks and tool them? Because tooling is a very important element of your strategy, you told me. So tell us a bit more about how you got everybody on board and how you used your own tooling to do that. And what you're doing with tooling, by the way, for the rest of society, because you guys are doing some amazing things there as well.
We are. So the first thing we did was we took the people that understand how to run the applications and put them with the teams building the applications. And there was a lot of cross-training that went in there as well, because the teams are now going to be responsible for their own infrastructure in the cloud. So when you deploy your application, you're no longer going to stop doing anything for that application. In the old days, you built an application, and the only time you touched it was during an incident, or whether you were doing upgrading the hardware or something like that. Now it's yours for the entire life cycle of the app. And we've thought that when we put those operational support members with the developers, we were able to get better processes for automated deployments. And some of the other things we did around security is the same way, as we co-located our security team similar. And being a tech company now, or we want to be a tech company,
yes.
Part of that is building your own software. So if there is not a tool available for us to do better automated deployments at the scale that we need, we go ahead and write our own. And as again, part of the technology company, we give that back to the internet. And Cloud Custodian is the product that you were talking about, yes.
Yeah, Salim mentioned that a lot of the best practice that he and Singularity University build is going to be public domain, but you follow the same thread, which is if you build great tools, then society should benefit from it, right? Which the cloud brings as a mentality as a whole. Now, Mario, you have made a decision to be hybrid, right, for a long time. Can you give us a bit of an idea how you decide which applications stay and which don't?
So Schlumberger is a very large company. Not every application will actually be able to, even with a different cloud service provider, it may or may not work very well. So some of the criteria to decide which application goes, we built a decision tree. And basically, it had to do with security. How much, a very good example is, do you enable federation authentication? Can you do two-factor authentication? Yeah. But also, whatever the back-end database was, that was another criteria. But the goal is to move out of our traditional data centers and be completely into the cloud. Probably we won't move everything, but whatever is left over, we will have to sunset at some time.
Yeah. Now, Mario, you made a very profound statement. You said, I believe that the cloud actually is more secure than us doing it ourselves.
It can be.
It can be, yes. I think that's what you said. Yes, that's what you said.
Yeah.
Do you guys share that thought? Because that's a very profound change in mentality. Puneet?
I would say it is, believe it or not. I think what the cloud providers have done today, there's no way that you as an organization can build that kind of security on-prem. So for us, I won't say that it can be. I will say that it is, period. And from our perspective, there is nothing that can be actually moved to the cloud with the right risk control and the right security controls.
Pablo, you guys are an auditor like yourself.
Yes.
So from that perspective, how do you think about the statement that Mario made? Do you believe that from an audit perspective, from a compliance perspective, we can argue that eventually the cloud will be more secure?
Oh, I would absolutely agree. I would agree that it is more secure today. I think there's an education aspect with the different auditors, because many auditors are still coming to look at the cloud with a data center mentality. Yeah. So we have to change our mindset as well as organizations move into the cloud.
Yeah. Now, Kyle, I want to dive a little bit more into the security question with you. What can you say about the ownership of security within Capital One? Has that changed when you guys embraced the cloud the way you did?
Partially it has. So when you push security resources down with the developers, they're actually starting to develop their apps with security in mind. And that's the first step in having any kind of secure app in the cloud. But we didn't just leave it there. We also built the tools, and part of what you get out of the cloud and what makes it more secure than your data center is the visibility into everything that's happening. So you get real-time feeds of actions happening in your cloud environments. And we've built tooling to take in those feeds and react on them. And that way we can make sure that all the applications as they're deployed maintain our, up to our security standards.
Have you guys gone through a similar change in ownership and how early you start with with combining application functionality and security? Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. That for us, that was a pivotal point. And I think having the security mindset and be able to have the developers have the same mindset actually helped us. Now they're thinking about security from the very get-go.
Mario?
Yes, we have actually empowered developers to be have a security mind, and we have actually recently implemented what we call is the cloud driver's license. If you really need to work in the cloud, you need to obtain this driver's license with the proper training.
Yeah. Mario, you mentioned digital transformation at Schlumberger. Can you give an example of what that means?
So digital transformation is not about technology, it's about changing the way we work. And we want to actually don't make small changes, but completely, so we have actually got a business and we ask them, what, if you were in charge, what would you do? And what are the things that work and don't work? And then we use technology to be able to enable the digital transformation. Yeah. So for me, changing the way we work is digital transformation. And the biggest issue on digital transformation is you need to make sure that you have good change management and good communications.
Puneet, we were talking about CocaCola last night and digital transformation. Can you give an example of what you guys do as an organization?
Oh, no, absolutely. First of all, the journey started us with moving to the cloud and having a digital platform and standardization. And a few years back, you would say that the Coca-Cola should be arm's reach away. Now we're looking at it should be a click away. So that's the kind of journey we are going as a company, and we want to make sure that the Coke is available to you at a click away. Yeah. So that's what our executives are looking at, and that having the support really helps us to have this whole digital framework and mindset.
Yeah, we talked about an interesting example last night is how does Coca-Cola know that at the Super Bowl they have to have peach Coca-Cola, right, or mango Coca-Cola? And that is because the machines that mix these drinks, right, on demand, right, in fact, talk back to Coca-Cola and tell what people like and how people consume Coca-Cola. And that is a very novel way of thinking about product development as well. Yep. Yeah. Kyle, that transformation with you has certainly started because you think of yourself already as a technology company. How does that then play out with your customers? What is different to them?
So for us, it's getting the services that they want to them faster. So our Alexa app is a good example. So we're now starting to interact with technology and things in the cloud just by speaking. Yep. And publishing an Alexa app that gives you the ability to check your balance and pay bills and things like that is how we've started moving in that direction. And
people are comfortable with that?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Because you make them comfortable with it, right? Yes. A lot of the digital transformation resistance that Salim also mentioned is that, yeah, a lot of the way that we do things is not necessarily in line with this thinking, but we'll get there. Now, with a minute or so left, any good advice that you can give this very large crowd of 15,000 plus people out there? One hint, one tip. Mario, I start with you. Right?
So for me, what you need to do is, when you go into the cloud, I think start working with a good governance. You need to have a good governance. When we first start going into the cloud, myself and the security team used to get blamed for a lot of things. And with the governance now, the governance starts with the senior executives. Yeah. And the goal of the technology people is to educate our senior executives on the risk, and then they will make the right decision and see how much risk acceptance or risk appetite do they have.
Right. Time for one more. Pablo.
I would just say, don't break the cloud.
Don't break the cloud.
And what I mean by that is we don't go into the migration, into embracing the cloud with that data center mentality. You need to throw all that away, and you need to start with a cloud mentality, cloud-first mentality, and then build from there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of your very hard-won insights. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our panelists.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.